What's going on, YouTube? Welcome to the channel. This is Lone Wolf, and in this video, I want to go over the soul binds in the Path of Ascension. Okay, we've managed to have the humility difficulty unlocked, and we were able to finish most bosses without a problem, except for one boss, and that one boss is so RNG that I feel that I had to cheese it. There's no other way. It literally took me over 50 tries on this one boss. Every other boss took me 1 to 2 tries. Um, but I had to cheese it. I had to cheese it because it just felt impossible um, without having to cheese it. But we'll go through those as we show you the bosses. But again, in this video, specifically about the soul binds. We're going to start off with Pelegos. Pelegos is interesting because he has a lot of different abilities that really go well against these bosses. Foremost, the confront memories that gives you the shield, very strong against bosses that don't do direct damage or that you are able to um, avoid direct damage, because this makes you immune to everything that goes on, even stuff on the floor. Okay, like any little patch on the floor that does taking damage, this won't get reduced. Because once you get hit with the direct damage, it just goes down from whatever it is. Like right now, it's at 30 seconds, but if I get hit right now, it'll go down to 10 seconds. And once that runs out, then you have no more shield. All right, until the cooldown for confront memories is back up. One thing to note is the way Pelegos plays is you fill up this resource bar to 100, and you are able to cast Unleash. Okay, so what causes you to get resource is basically, let me use this Unleash. That way you get to see that this goes to 0. And then, as you can see, we'll talk about Unleash in a second. But once you start attacking with Test of Faith, your resource goes up. Every single attack gives you 1 tick, and then his melee, or not his melee, but his autocast also gives you 1 tick. So very important to always make sure you're paying attention to this. That way you know, okay, my next cast I can do an Unleash, and boom. And Unleash is by far the most damaging ability that all your soul binds have. Okay, so you first hit the target with a direct damage impact that comes from the sky, and once it hits them, it leaves a ticking dot on them, and that ticking dot does an insane amount of damage. It does more damage than even the impact itself, which is huge. Okay, so obviously that's something you have to pay attention to. And then there are aspirant bindings. Aspirant bindings are for snaring people or enemies. That way they don't continue hitting you, or you're able to kite. And it gives you resource. It gives you 10 resource. You can see it in the tooltip. So if they hit somebody, boom, you get 10 resource. Now, so how do you play with Pelegos? Pelegos is all about managing your cooldowns and dealing massive damage. Okay? So the first thing you would want to do when you enter, and I'm saying this that way you guys can understand the mechanics versus me explaining it on every fight. So the first thing you want to do is start off with a hit. You get your confront memories, and I usually go for the haste, because your haste allows you to cast Test of Faith on cooldown, and it gives you Unleash. All right, so you can just keep spamming it. And I just keep getting it unless I know that I'm about to take a big hit or that I won't be able to survive the next few seconds. Um, this will be my main to reduce the cooldown. The mobility one from Confront Memories is absolutely garbage. You are able to get that from gear or charms and stuff like that. But this one right here, I, I have no need for it. It's useful in some boss fights, but the other ones you have is just way better. Okay. About gear, we're gonna talk about gear during the bosses themselves. So again, test of faith, test of faith to charge your resource. Aspirin bindings to help you kite and also deal damage. If you don't really need to kite, you can just deal damage with it. It does okay damage. Confront memories. You either want the shield or the ability cooldown reducer. All right. And always use unleash. Always put yourself in a position where you can use an unleash and not have to worry about stuff on the floor or somebody about to attack you with something that you're not supposed to get hit with. So positioning is important when it comes to Pelegos. All right, next, Clea. Clea is useful in some fights. Okay, the fight that I think that she's really good in are Mad Mortimer and Athenos. Mad Mortimer, um, because there's a lot of like split damage and the more enemies around you, and these little ads that come up, if you are able to kill those ads when you're empowered, you get a lot of crit, you get a lot more damage going on, and you can just boom boom. She takes a lot of hits. Okay, she has a lot of armor, so she is able to take a lot of melee hits. But to play with her, all you need to do is position her where this ability always goes in front. It does AoE damage. It's not shared. And you see that her resource, it goes up. Um, Her melee does give you some resource, but for the most part, you're going to want to use Ascendant Strike, okay? And you're just going to spam that. So yeah, so you spam Ascendant Strike. Now, Leap of Faith has double usage. Leap of Faith is used on cooldown for damage, or you wait to use it when there is a mechanic that you need to avoid. Okay? So say this guy's about to do a powerful swing, I can just either go back or jump behind him. Or I can just, if there is no mechanic that I need to avoid, I can just use it on cooldown and just continue to do damage. Okay? It's pretty nice. So her other ability is Keen Insight. Keen Insight is not too powerful. It comes in hand when you use your Archon's Blessing. But basically you use this and every time somebody hits you with a melee attack, they get reflected some of the damage back. It's not a lot, it just helps. Again, when using your Archon Blessing, when you use this ability under the blessing, if you use it near little targets, like minor mobs, you consume them, and you'll be able, for every single enemy consumed, you insta kill them. You get 10% critical strike. Okay, so basically, what you do is, and also your Leap of Faith, it has no cooldown. You can just spam it. So basically, to enter, you go in. That's the Keen Insight. As you can see, I have a lot of crit now, and I can just keep spamming. This is how you deal damage with her. It's very nice to play with her. It's unfortunate that she is not very useful in most fights. Obviously, if you want to get the achievements, then you want to use every Soulbind. But initially, just to beat it, Pelegos is by far the best. All right, so next is Mechanicals. Now, Mechanicals is interesting. I personally do not like him, but he's still useful. He is good in fights where there is not a lot of clutter in the floor. That way, um, you can use Mechanicals, like you just throw him around and collect the little balls to regain energy, because all your abilities are consumed. Or all your abilities consume resource. So overhead smash is basically your basic, but what's good about Mechanicals is that his melee hits are pretty. They hit hard, and he's kind of tanky, but not necessarily. The tanking comes in when you start weaving in Mechanicals to look for these little things. So basically, you just spam it. As you can see, your fist uses 5. It does okay damage, but this is where it comes in. This is where that resource comes in. Fire a beam of energy 50 yards forwards, inflicting 10,000 arcane damage to all enemies caught in the blast. And this is how that looks like. Boom. But it uses a lot of resource. So all you want to do, you kind of don't want to use the recharge because it uses a lot of energy. So try to avoid as much damage as possible without having to heal. But once you do need to go with this guy, you throw Mechanicals to an area that has the most of these little things. And then you're able to go back and continue your onslaught. Okay? You just keep going. Once you're low, you just pick up your little thingies as much as you can. And continue your onslaught. That's basically it. Like I said, he is good in fights where there is not a lot of stuff on the floor that will halt you or prevent you from picking all these up. And even in your normal state or form, you're able to collect these things. But for the most part, you just want to stay on the enemy. One thing to keep in note is if you reach 0 energy, you lose out on combat flow state, and this is what gives you the most damage throughout the fight. Okay, so you want to always keep in mind where you at, and then once you need to go out to get energy, you just go back out, consume, try to get as much as possible. And his melee hits also activate these little balls to come out. Okay, once you consume it, you just keep going. You're going to see how the numbers, it just keeps going. Boom, 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 boom. Very, very cool. I like it. Also, something to keep in mind is his abilities down here. One is Sparkling Drift, which is a speed buff by 75% for 10 seconds on a 30-second cooldown. So as soon as you come off, just press it and you're out. And then the other ability is a 30-second cooldown. It's called Resilient Plumage. Harden your resolve and your feathers to reduce incoming damage by 75% for 10 seconds. So that's something that's pretty cool, that when you jump off of your suit or whatever, you're able to run quickly, find everything that you can, and also reduce all damage by 75%. All right, so keep that in mind. I got orbs all over the place. And the good thing about Mechanicals is when you come out of his form and you gain all this stuff, it's like 2 health bars. So you're able to like cheese the mechanics a bit if you see that something is about to come off. He has like an immunity animation to where if you're doing substantial damage and there's going to be a serious mechanic coming, obviously it activates. In order to throw Mechanicals away, you need to have 30 energy or below. So right here, so for an example, if if there's a mechanic coming and you throw mechanicals in the same moment that the mechanic goes by, then you completely immune the mechanic. So very there's a lot of things you can do with mechanicals. Uh, I just personally don't like him. It's just a lot of stuff to do. You got to work harder to achieve the same outcome. So, but there we have it. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Give it a like. Definitely comment any other tips that you found while doing your escapades in Path of Ascension. All right, so we're gonna be putting out the videos on humility difficulty. So definitely stay tuned for that. And with that being said, guys, I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.